South Africa needs a new generation of leaders and it needs a change right now. It is my firm view that the next party that should lead this country in 2029, as of 2029, should be a party of millennials, conservative, and completely new to the South African landscape. Millennials are those born between 1981 and 1996. Millennials make up roughly 27% of the South African population, representing a significant demographic group. About 60% of South African millennials live in urban areas already, with major concentrations in Gauteng, the Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. Despite high education levels, millennial unemployment in South Africa is approximately 40%, significantly higher than the generational population. Around 70% of South African millennials report using their smartphones for mobile banking and financial transactions. These are people who are already connected. If you're talking about the future, this is who will take you there. And they're just waiting for it. Nearly 50% of South African millennials still live with their parents due to economic pressures. We cannot have this anymore. You cannot build a country like that. These are people that should be married and living by themselves and being more productive than ever. These are supposed to be actually the most productive group of people. And they're highly educated. This is actually supposed to be the core of your productive base, the core of your labor market. And they're able to live in this new world. But now they're stuck with the no idea having ANC. Many South African millennials can carry up to about 350,000 Rand in debt, primarily from student loans and credit cards. About 55% of South African millennials are actively saving for retirement, though many started later than previous generations because they probably weren't employed and they're not getting any younger. How are we going to take care of this large generation of people when they get older? Should we not build a good economy? And should we not do what every great country has done? Use them when they're in their prime, because that's how you pay them the retirement money. It's money that they've earned actually when they were part of the core of the labor market. Roughly 65% of millennial consumers in South Africa prefer to shop online, particularly through mobile devices. These are people that are going to be driving and are driving the economy because there's so many of them. Only 30% of South African millennials, though, own property, significantly lower than previous generations. When you're talking millennials, there is a different relationship towards owning property than their parents, but 30% is still very low, and it's only that low because they're not thoroughly engaged in the economy.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
Approximately 75% of employed South African millennials work in the services sector, with high concentration in tech and digital industries. If you're moving the country forward, should this not be your cohort? And they're the right age, and they're highly educated, and they're already plugged in. Around 83% of South African millennials use social media daily. That can be a good or a bad thing, with WhatsApp and Instagram being the most popular platforms. These are people who are plugged into the rest of the world. We now have a course on Teachable. It's for boys between the ages of 10 and 18, about 12 men from the Bible, where we teach about manhood, masculinity, and becoming a man. Check it out. About 45% of South African millennials are engaged in some sort of side hustle or gig work to supplement their income. These are people that are hungry for it already. They need to come through because it's time. It's time for their generation to take over. And in fact, it's taking over a little bit late. And in my estimation, about 5 to 10 years too late. Nearly 60% of millennial parents in South Africa are raising their children differently from how they were raised, focusing more on emotional intelligence and digital literacy. I'm not sure that's such a good thing, but the important thing to note there, that a lot of these people are building the next generation and already have children. These are people who have an investment in how this country grows and what it becomes. 40% of South African millennials identify as being formally skilled and having tertiary education. About 55% of South African millennials prefer experiences over material possessions when it comes to spending their disposable income. That's typical of millennials, but they are willing to spend their money in the economy. Imagine if we actually gave them some jobs. About 35% of millennial entrepreneurs in South Africa started their business out of necessity rather than opportunity. These are people who are stunted by the current government, who want to grow, who want to build, who want to be somebody, and they just need to be unleashed because it's a large population of people who could be highly productive.
Me personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
Roughly 80% of South African millennials consider themselves politically engaged but are skeptical of traditional political structures. This is why I say a new party led by millennials and strongly robust conservative ideology is what this country needs and will move the country forward, and especially if it's completely new to the South African political landscape. And they have a very short window before they're too old, actually, because a lot of them are old. There's just so many of them. That's the thing. They can take this country forward. They are old enough, they are educated enough, they are connected to the world enough, and they have the ideas and the ideology for the most part that will move this country forward. We need to be done with the ANC, and we need to put the DA aside, and we need to reject the MK, ATM, and the EFF outright, and put forward a conservative party led by millennials to take this country forward, and then our best days will be ahead. A saying, it always seems impossible until it is done. Nelson Mandela. I recommend it strongly. The case is closed. South Africa needs to move to the new generation.
We now have a course on Teachable. It's for boys between the ages of 10 and 18, about 12 men from the Bible, where we teach about manhood, masculinity, and becoming a man. Check it out.
Magwala, cheche, Hoya Rona,
Thank you for listening. If you dare, buy us a coffee. The link is in the description.